Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Pax CG here on my little YouTube channel. My name is Stefan, I'm from Germany and I've worked as a 3D as well as 2D artist for the past 8 years now, mainly focusing now on 3D environment design and prop design for video games and apps. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to model a wireless Bluetooth speaker. I picked this as a project especially for beginners because it is not too hard to create and it gives some very nice results for your very first project. So to get you started, the very first thing you should do if you haven't already is download Blender from blender.org. I'll put the link in the description, but here you can see it on the screen. The current version of Blender at this point of making the video is Blender 2.92. There's probably gonna Blender 2.93 out there very soon, but you can use any version of Blender really. It doesn't really matter if you're on an older version, though I would suggest that you don't go lower than Blender 2.8 because that is when Blender got a huge massive update with a complete redesign of the UI. But let's jump right into Blender, and as soon as you open it you get greeted with this splash screen where you can select a previously saved scene you've made, or you can load one of the basic scenes that Blender comes with. For this project we will pick the general scene because this is like the most basic scene you can have, and as soon as you open it you see you have a cube right in the middle of it, you have a camera, and you do have a sunlight. What we're gonna do though is we're gonna press A to select everything, then press X to delete everything, and then you confirm it by clicking on delete. Now we can start with a completely fresh scene where we build everything from the ground up, and I'm going to show you this right now. Okay, so the very first step we need to do now is we need to bring our reference into the scene. To do that we go to the front view. I decided that our front view will be the X-axis. For that you can go up here and click on a little X here on the gizmo. Or you can simply press 3 on the numpad. I'll press 3 on the numpad and it goes into this perspective, facing right from the front of our object. To get the reference in, which we want to model after, we press Shift and A, and then we create an image and select the reference. For that I will go to my folder where I've stored it, go to 3D, that's where I keep all my 3D work. And then there's, in the tutorials folder, I've set up a reference of the speaker. So that will be what we'll be working with. This will be the speaker we're gonna build. Basically, just go on Google, search for the object you want to build. This here is the Creative T15 speaker I'm gonna use because I have it here and can have a look at it and can see what the little details are like. And we're gonna basically recreate this. Or if it's on your desk, just take a photo with your smartphone, put it on your PC, and then load it as a reference image in the background. So, first thing you've learned there is how to make new objects, Shift A, and then you can select from a wide array of objects basically. So if we look at this, we can see there's like two main shapes to this. There's circles and there's kind of squares. The easier way to model this is to model it from the inside to the outside. So starting with the circles and then going to the outside and building it up there. You might be tempted to build it from the outside, but then it's going to be pretty hard to align all these circles, so we're going to do that from this perspective. So we deselect it, Shift A, and then we're going to create a mesh and we're going to create a circle. This is going to be used as our guide, and you can see it here, it is in the middle, but it is somehow like a line. This is because it's rotated. To rotate an object, you simply press R. See, you can rotate it, and then you select the axis you want to rotate it on. You can rotate it on the Y-axis in this case. So you can see as soon as you move the mouse, you move it just on this single Y-axis. You could press X for the X-axis or Z for the Z-axis. But we're going to press Y. And to perfectly align it, we just type in 90. This basically means it rotates 90 degrees on the Y-axis, and we press Enter. And there we have our circle, which we can use to work with. For this project, this circle has way too many sections. So I'm going to delete it with X and delete, and we're going to create it like this. Basically Shift A, make a circle, and then here in the bottom left there's this add circle. We can click on that, and we can say we don't want 32 vertices, we want maybe 16 vertices. This will make it a little bit rougher around the edges, but it will be easier to work with, trust me. We can always ramp up the resolution later. So rotate with R, Y, 90, And we got it back. And you can already see it that it's a little bit more, it has less vertices, therefore it's not as round as the other circle. So what we're going to do is we bring that roughly into position, and it's already about the right size that I want. You can zoom in with the mouse wheel, and if we press the Shift key and the middle mouse button, we can pan it around, so we have it in the center of our screen. To move an object around, you select it, and then you press G, and that moves it around. And that can also be used in together with the Y, X, and Z key to move it just on a single axis. So we bring it roughly here, and then we want to scale it down a little bit. For that we press the S key, and then we're in scale mode, and we bring it down just right that it aligns to the reference, and with the G key center it again. So this is just a circle we have right now. If we click the middle mouse button, we can rotate the view around, and if you see, there's not much to it. It is basically just the outline of a circle. To make it an actual 3D model, what we're going to do now is we go into edit mode. You have to press tab for that, and then you're in edit mode. In edit mode, you can press the 1 key to get into the vertex mode, where you can select individual vertices of the mesh. 2 is edge mode, where you can select the individual edges. And 3 is where you can select the polygons, which we don't have yet. But we're going to fix that right now. So we go into the edge mode, 2 key. We select everything with just a press of the button A. And then we're going to press the E key, which is extrude, which basically extrudes geometry from whatever we have selected. So if we press E, we move it around, it does this thing, it follows the mouse cursor. To make it a little bit easier, we press escape. This still applies the extrude, but it leaves it in place. What we're going to do now is we're going to scale outwards from here. So we press S. Then, as you can see, we can pull it up right like this, and we can get our first polygons into this. So this is basically like the most complicated thing we're going to do in this tutorial. What I want to do now is I'm going to build up this ridge that follows, or that goes to the inside. Then there is a rubber ring, a metal part, and then there's this black foamy thing, which is like a grill in front of the speaker. And we're going to do that, all of that now. So we want to have this edge as our base, the inner edge of this ring. For that, we can press the Alt key and click on an edge, and it selects the whole loop of edges. From here on, we press E again, escape, scale inwards until we come to this point where the rubber ring starts. We do that again. Basically just following what we see on the reference. Doesn't have to be too close, but try to get it accurate. And finally again, E, escape, S to scale. And we bring it down, now let's say here. Working with references can be a little bit tricky from time to time, but as soon as you understand what perspective the photo is taken in, it will be a lot easier. To see what behind our polygons which we created, we can press Shift and Z, which basically goes into wireframe mode, and then we can see all of that we've created. If we wanted to adjust the size of our rings now, which I will probably need to do for the inner rings, is I can go back into edge mode with 2 key, Alt click on a loop, and select it, and then scale it up. Something like this. And the inner ring can be a little bit bigger as well. I think that is a good start. So we have created the speaker itself now, well, the speaker driver itself. And now we have to create the first details that actually has depth. For this, I deselect it with, or I go out of edit mode into object mode by pressing the tab key again. Click outside of it, rotate the view a little bit, and I want to have some space when I'm working. So I select the reference image I created, G key, and the X key to move it along the X, and move it a little bit back so I can see what I'm working with. And if I now go into the front view from the X-axis by pressing numpad 3, it is still all in the same size because it's only been moved back on this single axis. So now we have some room to work with. Shift Z again to go out of the wireframe mode. Let's select our object and go back into edit mode by pressing Tab. And now we have to see how we can make this an actual 3D object. Remember, the outer ring is basically the flat part of the speaker. Then comes like the bevel that goes inside, the rubber ring, the metal ring, and this in the middle here will be the speaker, which we'll do at a later point. So let's select all of the rings. To select all of them, I'm pressing Shift while holding the Alt key, and then if I click on it with the Alt key, it selects the whole loop. With Shift, I can select additional loops. Now, what I want to do is, I only want these two inner loops here. I want to move them back a bit. For that, I press the G key, then I select the axis, which is the x-axis in this case, and I move them back. And now you can already see what this is doing. So we do it something like that. Then we have the rubber ring, which does have quite a bit of detail because it's rounded. What we can do for this is we press Ctrl R. Ctrl R allows us to add additional loops. As you can see, wherever I bring my mouse cursor, it creates another ring which creates new edge loops and therefore new polygons. And what I want to do now is I want to scroll my mouse wheel, and that creates simply more of it. For this thing, I'm gonna go with, let's do 2 at first. We click once, then we can shift it around, or if we don't want that, we press Escape and it puts it right in the middle. I go back into polygon mode with the 3 key, select the whole ring by Alt-clicking, and then I press the G key again and bring it forward. So that way we create this ring effect. And I could now scale it up a little bit, just a tiny bit, so I get more of a roundness on this object. So you can see if I go out of edit mode, this is pretty much what I wanted. Let me check the reference, which I have here on my table. Yeah, this is okay. We can do the fine adjustments later. And this metal ring here, this goes back as well. So we select the inner ring, Alt click it, grab it, press the X key, and bring it back as well. There we have it. This is basically the speaker driver, but now we need to cap the hole in the middle. For that we go into edit mode again, press 2 key, select the whole loop with Alt click, and we simply press F, which closes it. What we can do now to give it a little bit more shape is press the I key, that's for insert. Then we can basically shift the edges to the inside, create a little bit more detail. Now I'm going to go into edge mode. I'm going to select all of these, pull them back a little, just ever so slightly, that it creates a little curve here. So, as you can see as of right now, it is all very roughly shaded because it is not a smooth object yet. We can fix that, however. We select the whole object, go into edit mode, press 3, press A to select everything. Then we right click and we select Shade Smooth here, which will make everything smooth for now. Which looks alright, but not perfect. But now we can go here on the right, there's this panel, like this green triangle. And there you have the point, the menu point normals. You select that, you activate auto smooth, and then you adjust the angle here to whatever you need. So I'm going to lower it quite a bit. Actually, let's do it the opposite way. Let's put it like very, very high. And then we now go into the mesh again, go into edit mode, 2 key to select the loops. And we select every edge loop that we want to have hard, like where a transition between the materials, for example, occurs. So this is this one, Alt shift clicking them to select them. We want this one to be hard, and we want this one to be hard, kinda. Now we can right click and we can say mark sharp. And if we go out of edit mode with pressing the tab key, we now see that we do have some very nice separation between the materials. So This is our speaker driver. The next thing we want to do is build the body of it. And I'm going to build a simplified version of the body for this tutorial. You should, after this tutorial, have learned all the tools to create more details by yourself. But for the sake of the video, we're keeping this short. So we go back into the front view. Now we go back into edit mode and we select all the edges, all the vertices, sorry, by going with the one key into vertex mode. And then we start by selecting these two first. We scale them on the y-axis, bring them roughly at the same position of the vertices here below them. We do the same for these two and these two. We scale them along the z-axis. Make it roughly square here as well. Forgot these two. And you don't have to get it precise. I'll show a little trick how to get them perfectly flat in a moment. So these go here. This little one goes here. This one goes here. And this one goes here. So to get them perfectly straight now, you simply select them. And then you scale them. You can scale vertices as well. You can see right now it's scaling on all axes. But we want to scale it on the y-axis. And to get it perfectly flat, simply press the 0 key or type in number 0, and it perfectly flattens it. Same here on this side, as y0, and for these we simply go as x0, as well as here as x0. And now we can go into the big chunks of the model. 2 key for edge mode, Alt click to select all of them. But actually we only do want these. It's probably a little bit hard to see in the view. I'll zoom in. They turn orange when you select them. You want to select the 4 on top here. Just these 4. Shift click to select them in case you lost them. Control click to deselect if you selected too many. What we're going to do now is we press the E key for extrude. There I missed an edge. Let's go back with Control Z. E key for extrude. Extrude it along the Z-axis and pull it up until you hit the edge of your reference image. And we're going to do the same at the bottom. Select all of them. E, Z, and pull them down. And this is basically how we create the rough front of our speaker system. We're going to go into wireframe mode again by pressing Shift Z. And now you can see that it's not perfectly straight, that it goes narrower to the top and the bottom. To do that, simply go into edit mode, select the top row of the vertices, and scale them with S along the y-axis and bring them in just a little bit. Same for the bottom, S, Y, and scale just a tiny bit. You can also hold the Shift key while scaling, and it will do like a finer adjustment, not as quick as without the Shift key. I really like to use that. Okay, we put it here. And to get a more of a rounded effect, we put another loop inside. Here we go to, with 2, we go to edge mode, Control R, put another loop in here. Go to vertices, scale them along the y-axis, and create a little bit of a rounded shape here. Same below. Shift it around where you need it. Scale, Y, and bring it out just a tiny bit. And if you go out of the X-ray mode, we can see now that we have created a very nice front for the speaker. The speaker itself, however, is slightly angled to the back. I can tell that because I have it actually around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into edit mode, out of edit mode into object mode, and we're going to rotate this whole thing. So for that we press the R key, we select the axis, which is the y-axis, and it's tilted by roughly 10 degrees, so I type in 10, and now it leans forward. If I want to lean it backward, I press -10. So that creates this effect that it's leaning back now. And since it's a speaker, and a speaker is a little bit more of that, it has a body as well, we're going to extrude the whole body of it. Now, for that we go into edit mode, press 2 for edge mode. We click on all the edges, Shift Alt click to select them all, And what we're going to do now is we extrude it by pressing the E key, then the X key because we want to do it on the X axis, and we just pull it back as far as we know from our reference. I have a couple more reference images opened, so I kind of know how far I could pull it back. So this whole thing looks a little bit weird, and I'm going to work now according to the reference. I have a side view reference open on my second screen, and there I can see that first of all it is angled downward like this, and it is also straight. So we with the selection still active, we rotate it y-axis and we bring it back 10 degrees. However, it is now a bit weird since this is not a flat surface. What we can do for that is Shift Z, select the bottom, scale along the Z-axis and bring it down to 0. And there we have it. We have the basic shape of the speaker now modeled. At this point, I'm going to click the reference, press the H key to hide it. This does only hide it. It is still here. You can see it here. In the top, it's just hidden by the little eye icon. So pressing Shift Z again to get out of edit mode. To get out of X-ray mode. Now we have to close this face here on the back. What we do for that is we go into the edit mode. We select all these edges. And whenever you have the same amount of edges mirrored across each other, you can just select them. Then you can press the F3 key and type in bridge. Or press Ctrl E to bridge the edge loops. If we do that, Ctrl E brings up this little menu. And you can say bridge edge loops right here, and it closes that up rather nicely. Now we're going to clean up the topology just a little bit. It's always good to work with clean topology, and for that we select the edges. And since we've rotated by 10 degrees, we press G to grab and Z to move it just up a little bit, so it's a little bit more even, so we don't have a too steep variation here on the sides. So it did create a little bit of an issue over here. This is because the edges that flow along the top don't match with the edges along the back. To fix that, we could have done basically this. We delete the back faces, X to delete, and then select the faces. We select all of these here. Once again, we leave out the top 2 and the bottom 2. Ctrl E, bridge again, Ctrl R to add a new loop, and we need 3 of them so we can match the topology of the top and bottom side. Then we select them, press F to create a new polygon, and do that for all the holes. Select the opposing edges, press F to close the holes. And there you go, you have a perfectly closed topology now. This whole thing looks a little bit rough around the edges still, and that's where we're gonna jump into the modifiers now. Just a little explanation of the modifiers. The modifier is basically something that you put on top of a model or of an object that basically creates a modification of it. There's this like little ratchet icon here, or whatever it's called. I think it's a ratchet called modifier properties. You can click it, you select your object, then you can add from a list of a lot of modifiers. The one we want today is the subdivision surface modifier. What it basically does is creates a subdivision of each polygon. That means, like, if we go into the edit view now, you can see like we have four polygons here. They would get divided into 8 polygons, but you're going to see it in a second. So let's put the subdivision modifier on it to make the whole model a little bit smoother. And as you can see, it immediately collapsed, which is okay. We're going to fix that now. We're going to set the levels of smoothing a bit higher to 2 in the viewport and in the renderer, so we have the same result in our viewport and our renderer. And if we now press the tab key to go into edit mode, you can see the original form is still there. And we're going to work with that now. So basically the easiest method to fix this is every edge that you want to be hard, you put in another edge loop. So We press Ctrl R. Now we can move it to the outside and it creates another loop. Don't worry too much about it not being perfect right now because the geometry is flowing a little bit weirdly. But we'll fix that in a second. Put it here. Put another one on the other side. Put one on the top here. And we put one on the bottom to make that hard as well. We do the same from the side view, just to make it a little bit tighter around here. So, what you can see now is that it already looks a lot better. But we do have these loops going in here. This is not what we want. So for that we now make use of the knife tool. For that we go into, I like to go into vertex mode and press the K key, which brings up this little knife here. And now we can select this vertex and pull it all the way down to this other vertex. Click it once and press Enter to confirm. Do the same on the other side. K, select the vertices. It snaps to it. Then press Enter. And now it holds up the outer shape a little bit better. What we still want to do is we want to get rid of these that go to the inside. So for that we make a little bit cleanup of the topology now. We select all of them. Just like this. And we press X and dissolve edges. That doesn't delete the edges, but it dissolves them within the polygons. And there you go. It's a lot smoother already. Creates that, or deletes that nasty corner which we have here, which we don't want. Do the same again, dissolve. And now it looks a lot smoother. Forgot the ones on the bottom here as well. Dissolve the edges, and we can dissolve this one here as well. Dissolve these. And dissolve these. Do we have, yeah, we do have them here as well. And here as well. Now we have these vertices that go right on the edge. We don't want that, so we click the vertex and then the one where we want it. Shift, press M to merge them and select at last, and it moves it up here. Pretty easy stuff. Just to clean up the topology a little more. Down here it's alright already because we have this straight loop going around. And now it pretty much holds up its shape. And we have basically modeled a little speaker. What we could do now is, since we basically have the subdivision modifier in place, we can remove the auto smoothing. Gives a slightly better result. And now we go back into edit mode, press 2 to go into edge mode, and we refine this edge here, make it a little bit sharper around this area, and as well as here on the outside. We can't get them all perfectly right now. I'll show you a way to fix this. So, a couple of these vertices are way too far, while here on the corners they are perfectly where I want them. So I can click it and press G twice, double tap it. And this basically shifts something along its edge. We can do that for every vertex now. Bring it roughly all into the same position where we need it to create a uniform and sharp edge. So this looks alright now. It is a lot sharper now and we can see what's happening here. Now we're going to do the same for all the divisions. Simply press Ctrl R, bring in the loop and make it tight. As well as here, make it a little bit tighter. And we of course have the inner ring. And that's basically what subdivision modeling is all about. Dividing your model into higher resolutions and then bringing those edge loops to support it, to hold the shape and to define where something is sharp and where something is a soft transition. So this is basically the basics of subdivision modeling in Blender, the basics of box modeling or polygon modeling in Blender. You could basically take every object from your desk, or any object which you took a photo of or which you have a reference of, and bring it into Blender and try to recreate it with these simple basic tools. Most of it is really moving vertices around, extruding, insetting faces, and that kind of stuff. So I hope this gave you a little overview of how quickly you can create something awesome in Blender. You, of course, should now go on and try to recreate this with the object of your choice and make it a little bit more detailed. Do a little bit more than just the front speaker driver. Do the whole thing. And so what we can do now is we can create some more little details on this. So if we press Alt-H, we show everything we have hidden previously. So that brings back our speaker. Since I already showed you how to make a round object within a square object, I'm not going to do the little speaker driver that's on top of here. But instead, I want to do the little, what are they called? The little knobs on the bottom, which you can see here for volume and tone, and as well as the signal. So we can go back to the front view. We can Shift Z again to go into the wireframe mode. And of course, it is as easy as pressing Shift and A and selecting the base we need for this detail. So what we need for this would be a cylinder. It is right here. And there it is. We rotate it along the y-axis by 90 degrees. Then press G to bring it roughly into the place. And we scale it down until it matches the size of this knob here. All right. So we have it right. We press Shift Z again. And grab and move along the x-axis until it is here. So as you can see, we can put it there so it basically just intersects a tiny little bit. And now from reference, or we have to judge, we create the length of it. Maybe something like this. And we scale that a little bit down so it's a little bit, I think conical is the right word. All right. Now we insert this just a little bit to hold the edge better when we put the Subd modifier on it. We add another loop here, just so the subdivision modifier does apply properly. And what we can also do is, with the comma key on your numpad, you can zoom in on whatever you have selected. So we focus on this object and bring the camera around. This big polygon on the back is not needed, so we delete it. X, delete faces. We won't ever see it, so we can get rid of it. And it will mess with the subdivision modifier if we leave it there. And I don't want to do extra work on this edge, so it does look properly. So go to polygon mode again, select everything, right click, shade smooth, so it's smooth again. And we can already see what this Subd modifier is probably going to do. And we're going to throw that on there now. There you go, a lot sharper. Put it to 2 iterations. And what you can see if I have it to a lower iteration is that there's some artifacts here on the surface. How to fix that, we can basically go in, select this polygon in here, and scale it in a couple of times. Or rather inset, not scale. So that gets rid of these artifacts, and we bring it up to 2 iterations. Now we have a pretty smooth button here. All right. To duplicate this to the other side, that's easy. Simply put it into place. Let's say I want to move it like a little bit over there, because yeah, that looks more correct. To move it over, we can either press Shift D, which creates a duplicate. I'm going to delete this for now. Or since this is the same object twice, I'm going to press Alt D and move it along the y-axis by pressing Y. Bring it roughly in position. Alt D does not only create a copy of the object, it also creates an instance of it. That means whatever you change on one of these will be applied to the other one as well. So for example, if I select this polygon here and I grab it, you see it also moves on the other one. This is very important and very good way to work if you have instances of object that repeat across something. Or what we could do, show you a different way. Let's get rid of this one. We could throw a array modifier on this one. To this we go to modifiers. We stack another modifier on top of it. And it creates a copy as an array. And here on the XYZ axis we can just enter the numbers where we want to shift it. So we don't want to shift on the X, so we type 0. And we drag up on the X-axis. Let's have a look to get this roughly in place. Of course, if you have more time, you can do this more precise. 3.1 looks about right. And if I wanted to, like if I had like 20 of these things, I could just increase the count and create a ton of them without duplicating them by hand. But we just need 2, so we leave it at that. So we can basically use these knobs we already have as our little template for the other button. Since all the work has been done already, we go into the front view, Shift Z to go into wireframe mode, and we duplicate the whole thing with Shift D and bring it to where it belongs, like this. We delete from the modifier list the array because we don't want that, but we leave the subdivision. And now we can basically just scale it down, make it smaller so it fits this knob. Press Shift Z again. What I want to do now is I create with Control R another edge loop. Move that here because this button is not so big. Press 3 key, Alt click to select the polygon ring, X, delete the faces. Now we have like basically the smaller button, and we can bring it back by pressing G and then X to move it along the X axis. And put it like here. I think we can put it down a little bit. That would look better. And there you have it. This is basically the way how you could model this from a very simple shape and make it look complex with the subdivision modifier. So now that we do have the basic shape of the speaker, I want to show you another quick thing that we could do to enhance the quality of this. As you can probably see, we have made it very sharp edges. Like right here, it is very sharp, but on the reference you can see it's actually rounded. And to create that, we're gonna go into the model now, into edit mode, and we're gonna delete these edges we've created here basically. We can remove this one, and this one, and this one, and this one down here too. We basically just leave this one intact. Everything else we're gonna delete, and we're gonna delete this, 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 and this. Press X to dissolve the edges. And now it already did create these rounded corners, but they're not looking very pretty. You can see here there's artifacts all over the place on the edge. So let's fix that very quickly. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we bevel these edges by pressing Ctrl B. And let's say we bevel them 2 times. You do that by scrolling the mouse wheel. You can do as many as you want, up down to 2 segments. You're gonna do this like this. Keep it simple. So now it creates all these problems here, all these artifacts. To fix that, simply click into these 2. Press I to insert. Bring it down just a little bit. Just like that. What we can do now is we go out of this mode. We basically go to vertex mode. We select all these vertices here. Press M to merge them at center. Like this one, M. Merge at last to merge them down. And we keep doing that now for all the vertices. We collapse them on top of each other. Not with this one. And not with this one. I want them to be merged at a later point. So now I go into K with the knife tool again. I cut across here. Press enter. And now I can merge them down. And now we've created a smooth geo. I'm going to do the same on this side. Press K for the knife tool. Cut along this edge here, or between these edges. And then collapse them by merging them at last. And that creates a very clean geo, a very clean workflow for us right now. So the topology of this mesh is not perfect, but it does the job for what we want it to do. Let me quickly do that down here again so you can see it again. Oh, when I see I haven't beveled this edge properly. Excuse my German there. Bring it down. And now we basically have what we wanted. We have a very good shape. We have a, for this case, acceptable polygon flow. And it holds up its shape rather nicely. On the back here, we can do this a little bit easier. We can leave it like that. If you render it from the front, leave the back like that. If you render it from multiple angles, you probably do the same cleanup work on the back as well. But for now, for this view, it will do. Pressing Alt-H to show the knobs again. And we have our nice model of a speaker. Now you could use the same techniques I showed you today to create the rest of the speaker. You could create more indents, you could create the small speaker driver on top with the little grill in front of it. And you could basically go crazy with it and do whatever you can imagine, whatever you have reference for, whatever you have in your head. Basically, just have fun with Blender, try it out as much as you can, try your own ways of doing things. And of course, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and follow me so I can give you more videos on Blender. The next ones will be a little bit more in depth. This was really just a beginner tutorial to get you started with Blender, to show you what modeling in Blender is like. Maybe if you're coming from a different 3D software, or if you basically completely new in this world of 3D modeling. However, I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope I see you next time. And until then, I will say, be creative, have fun, and bye-bye.